Hi guys, this is CA Balakrishna from Lecturepedia.in. How are you? Hope you people are doing well. Even I am fantastic. In the today's class, we will be revising internal audit, and this handwritten chart you can download it from our Telegram channel, and link for Telegram channel you can find it in the description. So starting with internal audit, first of all, what is definition of internal audit? Basically, internal audit is a assurance function which provides assurance on the effectiveness of internal controls and risk management so that the organization's objectives are achieved. This is the simple definition of internal audit. Now, to which companies this internal audit is applicable? As per section number 138 of Companies Act 2013, internal audit is applicable to all the listed entities. Okay, and coming to unlisted public entities, you should remember 4 limits: 25 crores, 50 crores, 100 crores, 200 crores, double of each. Now 25 crores of what? Deposits of more than or equal to 25 crores. 100 crores, sorry, 50 crores, paid up share capital of more than or equal to 50 crores, and borrowings of more than 100 crores. You should remember, for borrowings there is no equal to 100 crores, exceeding 100 crores for borrowings, and turnover of more than or equal to 200 crores. If any of this limit is crossed, then internal audit will be mandatorily applicable for such a public limited company. Hope this is clear. And you should also remember that here the condition is or, not and. Hope this is clear. Coming to private companies. In case of private companies, you have to check 2 limits. One is turnover of more than or equal to 200 crores or borrowings of more than 100 crores. Here also for borrowings equal to is not there. Hope this is clear. This is the applicability of internal audit. Now, who can be appointed as an internal auditor? Actually, a chartered accountant, a cost accountant, or any other professional as the board may thinks fit can be appointed as internal auditor. And the internal auditor can be either a company or a partnership firm or a LLP or an individual. And internal auditor can be either employee of the company or some third party. These people can be appointed as internal auditor. Hope this is clear. You can see here who can be appointed as internal auditor. Now, what are the responsibilities of internal auditor? Generally, internal auditor has to check whether the internal control systems that are present in the organization are working effectively or not, and whether the internal auditor must operate independently of the accounting staff. He should not combine with the accounting staff. He should verify the work that has been done by accounting staff. Hope this is clear. And he should not involve in executory functions. The organization's staff will involve in executory functions. The internal auditor should involve in appraisal functions. Hope this is clear. And next, the internal auditor should also maintain independence. Just like a statutory auditor, even internal auditor should have this independence. And internal auditor should observe facts and situations and bring them to the notice of management or other authorities. He should continuously observe what is going on in the organization and bring updates to the management and other authorities. And he should associate closely with management and be updated with the business situations and the current updates related to the business of the organization. Okay, these are the responsibilities of internal auditor. Coming to principles of internal auditor. What are the basic principles that has to be possessed by an internal auditor? Independence, objectivity, integrity, and professional behavior. These 4 principles has to be possessed by the internal auditor. Next, qualities of internal auditor. What qualities the internal auditor should possess? First of all, internal auditor's purpose is to evaluate the internal control systems in the organization. So he should have expertise knowledge related to internal controls. So expertise to evaluate management control systems. Next, he should also have expertise in accounting and financial related aspects. And next, he should have basic knowledge. Expertise is not necessary. Basic knowledge related to technology and entities, commercial practices, and he should also have basic knowledge related to various laws, taxation, costing, economics, and EDP systems. Okay, related to these aspects, he just need to have basic knowledge. Expertise knowledge is not necessary. Next, he should understand management principles and techniques. What are the principles of the management of the organization? He should well aware of these principles of the organization, and he should maintain confidentiality. These are the qualities that has to be possessed by the auditor. You can mark this one as important. And next, coming to reporting of internal audit. Just like statutory audit, even in case of internal audit also, internal audit report will be given to the organization. Basically, standards on auditing, they deal with statutory audit, and for internal audit there are separate standards on internal audit. Even these standards on internal audit are also issued by our ICAI only. Now there is one particular standard on internal audit, that is SIA 370, which deals with reporting. Now as per this SIA 370, there will be two types of reportings. One is the internal auditor can report on a assignment wise, like he has completed verification of stock, then he can report regarding that particular assignment. He has completed verification of internal controls, he can report regarding that particular assignment. This is one type of reporting. Next, he can report on a periodic basis. In most of the organizations, internal audit report will be given on a quarterly basis. This is the second type of reporting. Here on a quarterly basis, all the aspects will be considered in the internal audit report. So these two are the types of internal audit reportings that can take place. Now of these two reportings, SIA 370 deals with the first category of reporting, that is assignment wise reporting is dealt by SIA 370. Hope this is clear. Next, key elements of internal audit report. What should be mandatorily present in the internal audit report? First of all, obviously, what is the scope of the audit, what is the objective of the internal audit, these must be present. Okay, overview of scope and objective of internal audit. Next, you should mention this particular paragraph mandatorily. What is that? Our audit has been conducted in accordance with standards on internal audit. This line must be present in the internal audit report. See, fact that internal audit has been conducted in accordance with standards on internal audit, it must be mandatorily present. After that, you have conducted internal audit, right? Now during the internal audit, what are the key observations that you have made? That is a summary of key observations that you have made. Even that should be included in the internal audit report. Next, what are the suggestions that you want to give to the management? Summary of corrective actions that are required to be taken by the management. Even that has to be present in the internal audit report. And what is the type of the assurance that you are giving based on your audit, internal audit that you have conducted? What is the assurance that you are giving? These aspects must be present in the internal audit report. Now, what should be the format of internal audit report? Generally, there is no specified format that is prescribed for internal audit. So, it is left to the professional judgment of the auditor. He can issue the internal audit report based on his own format. But however, there is SIA 380 which deals with format, but that format is not mandatory. Hope this is clear. Next, follow up. Once internal audit is completed and internal auditor has given the internal audit report, in the internal audit report he would have given suggestions and observations to the management. Whether management has implemented those suggestions, that has to be followed up by the internal auditor. He should review and monitor the actions taken by management. In case management has not taken the actions, then in the next period's internal audit report also he should highlight this fact. Hope this is clear. Next, coming to internal auditor versus external auditor. What is the differences between internal auditor and external auditor? You can also mark this as important. Generally, internal audit is a ongoing audit which takes place throughout the year and will be mostly conducted by person who is internal to the organization, whereas external audit will be conducted by a independent auditor. Next, internal auditor examines the efficiency of operational efficiency of organization, whereas external auditor examines the financial statements. True and fair view of financial statements will be verified by the auditor. Accuracy and validity of financial statements. And who will appoint internal auditor? Management will appoint internal auditor, whereas external auditor will be appointed by members, that is shareholders and users of report. Obviously internal audit will be conducted from the point of view of management. So internal audit report will be used by management of the organization, whereas external audit report will be used by stakeholders. Stakeholders include all members, banks, employees, okay, all these people, government, all these people, they will be coming under stakeholders. And period, generally internal audit will be conducted throughout the year, that is it is a continuous process, whereas external audit will be conducted once per year. Next, opinion. In case of internal audit, opinion will be given on the effectiveness of operational activities of the organization, whereas in case of external audit, opinion will be given on the true and fair viewiness of the financial statement. And status, the internal auditor can also be employee of the company. Even an employee of the company can be appointed as internal auditor, whereas external auditor should be external party. He should not be employee of the organization. Hope this is clear. Next, if you see, there is some relationship between internal auditor and external auditor. The work that is conducted by internal auditor and external auditor, there is some overlapping in the work that is conducted by internal auditor and external auditor. If you see, relationship between internal and external auditor, first of all, there is a overlap in the work that is being conducted by these two people, and also the Companies Act mandates external auditor to review the effectiveness of internal audit work. See, it is obligatory for the statutory auditor to examine scope and effectiveness of internal auditor, how effective the internal auditor has conducted his work. This has to be examined by the external auditor, and external auditor can also utilize the work that is conducted by the internal auditor in order to take decision whether to use the work of internal auditor or not. The external auditor can check how independently the internal auditor has conducted his work, how objectively the internal auditor has given his opinion. Based on this, the external auditor will decide whether to use his work or not. So, using the work of internal auditor, consider nature, scope of the work done and its relevance to the overall strategy. Next, determine adequacy of internal audit work for the external auditor's purposes. For this, what he will do? He will see whether internal auditor has acted objectively and whether he is competent enough, whether he is having sufficient knowledge in that area of internal audit function, and whether the systematic and disciplined approach is applied for conducting internal audit. Based on considering all these factors, the external auditor will decide whether to use the work of internal auditor or not. Next, considerations by external auditor while using direct assistance. Direct assistance from whom? Direct assistance from internal auditor. If you remember, we have discussed this concept of direct assistance in SA 610 also, using the work of internal auditor. If you have any doubt related to this direct assistance, you can please watch that revision video, SA 610. Now, while deciding to use direct assistance, what will be considered by the auditor? He will first of all determine what is the amount of judgment that is involved in the area that will be allotted to the internal auditor for the purpose of direct assistance, and he will also determine what is the risk of material misstatement of that particular area, and he will also see whether there are any threats to the independence and objectivity of the internal auditor while using him as a direct assistance. These will be verified by the external auditor. Next, external auditor should not use direct assistance in certain areas. What are those areas? If there are significant judgments involved in any particular area, then for that particular area you should not use direct assistance. External auditor himself has to perform that work. Next, if there is a higher risk of material misstatement in any area, even that area has to be audited by external auditor himself. He should not use direct assistance. And work in which internal auditor is involved. Now there is a particular, let's say, internal controls. Now internal controls are implemented by internal auditor only. Internal auditor helped the organization to implement the internal controls. Now you cannot assign this task of verifying the internal controls to the internal auditor, because he is involved in implementation of internal controls, so he cannot be independent. Hope this is clear. In that area you should not use direct assistance. And decisions that the external auditor makes as per SA 610. As per SA 610, external auditor, statutory auditor will determine whether to use direct assistance or not. For making that decision of whether to use direct assistance or not should not be assigned to the internal auditor. External auditor himself has to decide whether to use direct assistance or not as per SA 610. Hope this is clear. Next, if direct assistance is used, then in the documentation that the external auditor prepares, there should be these 5 items present. First one, how external auditor has evaluated the objectivity and competence of internal auditor. While you decide to use the internal auditor for providing direct assistance, you have to evaluate whether the internal auditor can act objectively and whether he is having competence, that is whether he is competent enough to perform this work or not. How you have evaluated this? You should maintain a documentation relating to this. Now next, after internal auditor has performed the work, you have to evaluate his work. Now what is the basis of evaluating his work? How you have evaluated his work? Even relating to the documentation has to be made. Next, who reviewed his work and what is the date on which his work has been reviewed and how much extent of work has been reviewed. Even this has to be documented. Next, there will be written agreement that will be obtained from the management, right? If you remember SA 610, we discussed that when you decide to use the work of decide to use direct assistance from the internal auditor, you should obtain a written agreement from the authorized representative of the management stating that management will permit the internal auditor to provide direct assistance. In the same way, you should also obtain a written agreement from the internal auditor stating that internal auditor will maintain confidentiality. These two agreements should form part of documentation. And also working papers that are prepared by the internal auditor while providing direct assistance, even those working papers should be included in the documentation of the external auditor. Hope this is clear. Next, there is a final small concept, that is a scope of internal auditor's work. Scope means what are the areas that will be reviewed by the internal auditor. Generally, internal controls will be reviewed by the internal auditor, and internal auditor will also review whether assets of the organization are properly secured or not. See, custodianship and safeguarding of the assets of the organization, and he will also see whether organization is complying with policies, plans, procedures and regulations, and whether the information that is provided by the organization is relevant and reliable. And what is the organizational structure? Relating to this organizational structure, there is a separate discussion which you can mark it as important, that will do. Next, utilization of resources, how the organization is utilizing the resources, whether resources are being utilized in a economic way or not, and accomplishment of goals and objectives. Those areas will be reviewed by the internal auditor. Now there is a specific discussion related to review of organizational structure. How internal auditor will review organizational structure? Generally in this, the main objective of the internal auditor is to see whether the structure of the organization is conducive to achieve the objectives of the organization or not. That will be that is the main objective behind verifying the organizational structure of the entity. Let us see. He will conduct appraisal for organizational structure to ascertain whether it is in harmony with the objectives of enterprise. How he will appraise? See, review grouping of activities for managerial control. How the various activities have been grouped in the organization. Okay, what are activities included in sales department, in HR department, in purchase department, in finance department, like this, how the activities are grouped in the organization, that will be checked by the auditor. Next, the internal auditor also will see whether this grouping is economical and simple or not. See, examine organizational structure to find whether structure is simple and economical. The organizational structure should be simple and economical to operate. Next, there should be no overlapping of responsibilities between two departments, even that has to be taken care. And examine reasonableness of span of control of each executive. Span of control means under each executive how many employees are present. Okay, how many employees will report to one particular executive, that will be checked by the auditor. Next, evaluate process of managerial development in the organization, how the entity identifies future managers, how the entity develops managers for various roles, how this structure is present in the organization. This will be reviewed by the internal auditor. Hope this is clear. So this is revision of internal audit, and in the next class we will be meeting with management and operational audit. Hope this is clear. And if you want to purchase classes, you can visit our website lecturepedia.in and you can place your order. Take care. Bye bye.